Good morning. Thank you so much for coming to our session today. We want to help you get your course ready. So before we start, we would love to learn a little bit about you and what you're most excited for this semester. So go ahead and type in the chat, what you're looking forward to in 2023 with your new courses that are coming up. Excited to help you get off on the right start. Melissa, developing your in-person class. Melzy feels more prepared. Yeah, it's exciting to meet your new group of students and see what brings out their spark, what gets them excited about learning. Ashley's excited about developing in-person content. Seeing past students in your new classes. It's always nice when you get to loop with certain students and see them as they progress. Oh, Monica having a small group, 12 instead of 25. 12 is like the perfect number of students that you can still have those good group interactions, but then give that one-on-one time that students really need. Kate is running through a course for the second time. That's nice when you've had one chance to get it under your belt and now you're ready to go again. Being 100% in the classroom. Second year ready for graduation. Yeah, there's a lot of things to be excited for this semester. I know, like some of you, I'm excited to try out some new assignments that I've added to my course just to see how they're going. We'll give about another minute to respond to the question, and I see some people are still kind of coming in, so we'll give another minute and then we'll go ahead and start moving through our presentation for today. Oh, Jill, that's so nice. Getting students ready for their final clinical, getting them ready to graduate. I know that's such a meaningful time and memorable time in their lives and your life as well. It's probably sad to see them go. Karen using new interactive activities. All right, Laura, what do you think? Are we good to get started?
Yes, and I'll monitor the waiting room and let anyone else come in who's there.
Thank you so much. So we just wanted to say thank you so much for coming to our session today. We're hoping that we're going to give you some helpful and practical hints for getting your course ready for your students. So thank you so much for sharing what you're excited with and about. We're hoping that this will be an interactive session where you feel comfortable to add your ideas, ask questions, because we really want it to be sort of a collaboration that's taking place. My name's April Higgins. I'm an instructional designer in CCIT. My home campus is the George campus in Wilmington, but I really work on projects with people college-wide. And along with me is Laura. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Laura Thompson, and I'm a learning strategies coordinator. I'm based out of a couple of campuses, actually, so I'm available to work with anyone all over the college.
All right. So we wanted to do a quick wellness check. Using this slide and the images that you see, tell us how you're feeling today. So we know a lot of you are excited for the semester, but deep down, how are you feeling? Pick an image, word, or word and image combination to describe how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. Energetic. Thank you, Pauline. Blessed. We are blessed to be in this position. The scream ghost. Grateful. Carrie Ann's going crazy. We're happy. Yeah, feeling good. Excited and crazy, curious about, what the upcoming semester is going to bring. So many ideas, trying to get them down and make it more manageable. Yeah, Celeste, I feel all over the place too. Oh, Melissa, nervous, you're brand new. Well, hopefully we can help you. And Melissa, if you need anything, CCIT is here for you. You can always stay after this session if you have any questions or need anything. That's really what we're here for. Grateful. We're grateful for all of you and the hard work that you do with all of our students. All right, so we know that we have this huge task of getting our courses set and prepared for our students for 2023, this new semester. So we just wanted to start off by kind of seeing what you guys do to get your course ready for the semester. So what are some strategies that you use to get your course ready in the most efficient way you can? I'll give you, for my own personal experience, I always update the course schedule first, and then I use that to go through and check all the other dates in the course to make sure that everything's up to date. I saw icebreakers, so like coming up with good ideas to get your students engaged, checklists, the managing dates function in D2L. And Virginia, that's a great point. If you don't know about that tool, Laura's going to talk about it in our presentation today. Making welcome back videos, adding due dates, Vivian. You know I love a good video. Course copy and then adjust it. So copy a previous course and then make the adjustments as you see fit. Kendra's talking about addressing those pinch points. So kind of going back and reassessing what you've been doing to make improvements to your course. Allison updating into the sandbox and then copying into multiple sections. That's pretty smart. Some new announcements, course copying, making a welcome sheet. That sounds interesting. Recording a video announcement. Yeah, so these are some really excellent suggestions on ways to get started. Making sure the links work, checking the announcements, updating the dates, checking all the links. Yep, this is exactly what we're going to talk about today. And hopefully we'll be able to give you some resources that will help you to fix any of these problems that you find as you go through your course.
We're going to be able to talk today about outdated information, any finding content mistakes and being able to address those. Technical information as well, and the accessibility and UDL approaches. So making sure that our courses are ready for all of our students. And again, we want to make sure we have that personalization in your courses. We want to help you inject some of your personality in there so that it contributes to that community development in your course. And finally, we're going to talk about that grade book as well. April, want to get us started with checkpoint 1?
Sure. So everything we're going to cover in this session today is kind of housed in what we call our course maintenance hub. And this is pretty much a Google Slides presentation that has all of these little tiles on the front of it. And we try to think about what are those routine things that instructors always have to do to prep their course and what questions do they have. So it's got things on, checking the accessibility, how to update your syllabus, how to create videos. So we're going to I think Laura just put a link to that in the chat. So anytime we talk about a resource in our presentation today, we're going to show you where you can find that in the hub. So like Laura mentioned, checkpoint 1, and like we talked about in the chat, is looking for that outdated information. So depending on how long you've been using a course shell, sometimes information becomes out of date or kind of irrelevant to your students. So in the chat, let us know where in the course do you tend to find outdated information? Like it's going to be there. You always check this spot because you'll find something that's out of date. Due dates, student hours, assignments, announcements is a big one. Course policies, yep, a lot of departments are, changing them. So making sure you have the most up-to-date. Learning materials, yeah, links break over time. Bio, the schedule, syllabus, yep, we'll talk about that today and how the links change each year. All right, so I know for me, it's always the course schedule, the announcements, and then the content for sure. So checking in those areas is the most important. You really want to take some time to skim, read, and check all of the pages in your course shell. So this will help you to avoid some common bloopers like referencing an old LMS, like Blackboard. I've looked in courses and sometimes people copy and paste information in and there's some irrelevant information. I know in a lot of courses, people change their assessments or update the assignments. So you want to make sure that everything, aligns to those changes that have been made. Another common pitfall in this area is linking to technology resources that are no longer relevant or maybe they're not available anymore. So it's important to provide easy access to resources that your students might need to complete assignments, to help them with the technology in the course. So according to a poll by EdScoop, blank percent of college students reported that they had technical issues that impacted their learning. What percentage do you think this would be? 60, 80. You guys are close. 65. Vivian, you're very close. You're warm. 75, 75. We're close. Zoe, you're the closest so far. 85, 68. So the number is 71%. I mean, you guys were right in the ballpark that's there. So 71% of students reported that they had technical issues. And I mean, think about yourself going through your own course. I'm sure you've had moments where you have technical issues that impact your workflow, the efficiency. So it's really important that we make sure we support our students in terms of the educational technology that we'll be using. So one suggestion that we have is that you make sure you use the most up-to-date technology resources by using our HTML template for technology. And these have been updated recently, so you want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date one. Here's what they look like. So these are our HTML technology resources and student resources. As you can see, they're a one-stop shop for students to get what they need to be successful. So the technology resources template has links to resources available if the students are having a technology issue. So this would include like the virtual support center, minimum technology requirements, a download center, and if they don't have a laptop, we have the laptop lending there. A lot of students like to use their phones to access the course, but in some courses that just doesn't work. So suggesting the laptop lending might really help a student that's struggling with the technology. And then the student resources templates have links to like the math center, writing center, the library, advisement. And these are really nice because they're packed with resources without making you have, all these separate links in your D2L shell. And that's a good question, Michelle. If you go to our hub and you go to the last tile on the bottom left, there's one called Updating Pages. And this will walk you through all of the steps for how you can either add these templates or replace the old templates that are in your course. So if you see the third link down here says Outdated Getting Started Template, that will walk you through the process to ensure that you get the most up-to-date templates in place. Another thing to look at is, those dates, like we mentioned before. So there's nothing better than getting one of those emails from a confused student about the due date of an assignment, and then you go and look in D2L and you forgot to update it. So if you're copying a course from another instructor, you want to make sure that you really go through and look at all the module overviews, the course schedule. Some instructors add a lot of due dates in there. So really just comb through all of that information. If manually changing assignment dates is not really your thing, you can consider using the Manage Dates tool, and Laura is going to tell you about that.
When you're looking at your course, you've just had your course, either it was put there for you or you copied it. One of the things you can do is you can advance all of your dates easily. These are the dates that you've set in D2L, for instance, using the tools where there are due dates set, things like that. If you type it in the text of, for instance, your course schedule, you will still need to manually change those dates. But this tool for managing your dates in a bulk way will help you with a lot of that work. So you'll want to be able to check all of those dates, look in your assignments, your discussions, your quizzes, your content modules for the ones that the managed dates won't change. That's something that April mentioned earlier. The Manage Dates tool allows you to view, bulk edit, bulk offset the date availability, set the calendar status of all content topics and modules, discussion topics and forums, assignment submission folders. You get the idea. It's pretty much everything. To use the tool, you go to course admin and then manage dates. And one other thing to think about is there is a schedule HTML template. And when you use this template, it can be linked to your assignments and content areas. This is a great place, a great tool to have in your Getting Started folder. It gives a real consistent feel for your students, and they have the opportunity to use that schedule to help them navigate the course. I know I use this course schedule just to give them that extra boost. I don't want them to spend that cognitive energy trying to find the assignment. I want them to actually get there and be able to spend their thinking energy on completing and showing you what they understand. Again, the course dates tile in our hub at that top corner will give you a link to a tutorial to how to use the managed dates and give you more explanation than I was able to give you in this brief session.
And then another common mistake, like we mentioned earlier, is outdated instructor information or references to outdated program or department advisement. So it's important to really go through and inspect these pages and even check in with your department chair or colleagues to ensure that you have the most up-to-date information for your students. And like I think Kate was mentioning, many departments and programs are working together to develop these common policies. So check that you have the most up-to-date policies and procedures in your D2L course. It's also important to double check that all of your contact information has been updated. So add the appropriate office location. I know a lot of the campuses are under construction and people are being moved all around. So it's important to check that periodically to make sure it's up to date. Have your student hours updated, your phone number, email address, and if you're teaching via Zoom, have that link set and ready to go. If you like the templates that you see on your screen, they're available in the shared files in D2L. Many instructors are adding an instructor information widget to their home pages to help students find this information more easily. And Laura's going to be telling you in a little bit on how to add widgets to your course homepage. Melzy is asking, is there a reference on doing a schedule like we just saw? So we do have the HTML template for a schedule. And then if you go in the hub and you go to the page that says updating pages, that'll tell you how to go in and edit that page, the schedule page that already exists. So this will teach you how to get that HTML template into your course, and then also how to make the changes to it. So it's really all about just getting that template into D2L. Another place to look are the announcements. So, here we have this example of an announcement that's canceling class due to a snowstorm, but it's during the summer session. So be sure that you go through and check your course announcements for the appropriate content and the release dates. You're able to create, edit, and delete. You can even reorder your announcements using the announcements tool. Since the course homepage is the first page that students usually access, you want to make sure that you display the most important information and keep your students informed using those course announcements. And again, that's on the updating pages. This will help you to make changes on your content pages or add an HTML template to your course. Is there a way to pin an announcement? That's a good question. I know that you can make them so that they can go away and that they can either stay the entire time. I don't know if you can force pin one to the top, but maybe CCIT can investigate that and get back to you. Does anybody know?
I think there's a way, but I'll investigate.
Thank you. That's a really good question because I know students can dismiss them. So once they see it, they can check a little box that makes it go away. I don't know if we can force pin it and make it so they can't dismiss that message. Another thing, this is kind of recently new, is that all of our syllabi are now located in Watermark. So you'll want to make sure that the syllabus in your course is the most up to date, and these are updated on a yearly basis. So you'll want to make sure that you're continuously checking this link to ensure that it's the most up to date and that it's still functioning. There is a link to the Watermark site through the portal under Academic Affairs. in the resources section. So you want to make sure that you always check and update this link every time you're prepping your course. So if you go to our tile that says syllabus, there's a video that can walk you through how to get to watermark and then update your link in D2L. There's also a slides presentation if you prefer to read it. Jessica asks, is there a way to save the syllabus as a PDF and upload as an attachment only or link as a website? I think as a college, it was determined that we wanted it to be that live link to watermark just in case there were any updates made to the syllabus itself. So I think that's the best practice. But that is a nice workaround, you know, if you're concerned about it going away. But I think we want to make sure that we just link out to the original. All right, so that's going to get us to checkpoint 2, which is all about content mistakes. You'll want to spend some time checking all of your web pages, links, and documents in the content portion of your course. So we talked about the home page, the getting started section. So now we're going to go really into the nitty-gritty of your course. Take some time to review your course in terms of spelling, capitalization, content. Ensure that your instructions are clear and give the students a clear pathway through your course. This is also a really good time to look at your course in terms of equity. So thinking about it through a different lens. Kendra already kind of talked about this a little bit, but going through and thinking about any potential barriers or pinch points. So are there any physical, social, cultural, or even ability level issues that might limit the accessibility to instruction and the instructional materials? So some of these issues could be resolved by using alternative text for students that have visual disabilities. You know, you added descriptions like they can understand what the picture is showing, having accessible documents, making sure that your videos have captions and transcripts, using audio descriptions, and then using accessible third-party resources when you're using textbooks or other instructional technology. You'll also want to think about if your course materials and assessments reflect cultural relevance and understanding, making sure that your students are, you know, represented in the course and see themselves in the course. You also want to make sure that your content is up to date in terms of having accurate and appropriate cultural and historical contexts. So I want to turn it over to you. How do you work to make your course more equitable? You know, what are some things that you look for or some things you add to your course shell to make sure that you're supporting students? Having PDF and Word attachments. Yeah, so giving multiple ways for your students to access the information in a way that works best for them. Offering student hours. Jessica said multiple means for the students to engage or participate. Yeah, so based on the resources they have, their comfort level, being mindful that pictures are diverse and representative. So being very thoughtful about every single thing that your students see on their screen. Provide videos on how to set up notifications. So making sure that the students are getting the correspondence from you. Choices in how to complete assessments. Using diverse names in application problems, yes. So not always John Smith, you know, using different types of names with different backgrounds. Diverse images with full representation. Verify the feedback for workable solutions in addition to multiple ways to interact with the objective. Yeah, so, you know, kind of flipping it and allowing the students to be more creative with how they show that they understand the content and that they've mastered that learning objective. Kate said non-graded uploaded assignments to practice how to use the system. Yes, especially for new students, this is really nice when it's something that's low stakes and a little bit easier. They get to practice using that technology because we know a lot of students get nervous about the educational technology. And I think, you know, all of these things go into creating that positive class community, ensuring that everybody feels like they're a part of the class, that they're involved, and that their ideas and their needs are being accounted for. Making sure that materials are relatable and relevant, asking for feedback from the students and actually taking that into consideration, making yourself available, helping one-on-one as needed. Sometimes that student just needs that little extra bit of support. All right, thank you so much for all of these thoughtful ideas, and hopefully we can all take some of these and incorporate them into our classes. So a main way to do this is to make sure that all of your documents are accessible and that there are multiple ways for students to use them and interact with them. So in our hub, the accessibility tile at the top left will give you lots of strategies that you can use to ensure that your course materials are not locking students out. We're making them open for everybody to use. And this will help you to make changes to your course materials so that all of your students can access them in a way that works for them. You'll also want to check for incorrect information. So a lot of times when a new edition of a textbook comes out, the content of the D2L course also needs to be fully updated to reflect the new page numbers, chapter names, the new PowerPoints. So we want to make sure that all of those things are accounted for in the various areas of the course where they're housed. Going through the content of your course will also offer you the opportunity to think about the overall organization of the class content. So when I look at courses, I try to think about how might the students navigate this course. So we know every course is going to be a little bit different, but what we're really looking for is that consistency factor. So like on your screen, you can see in this course, they have their main module and then 2 sub-modules within there. One is read and watch, where the learning materials would be, and the other is complete. So it really just depends on the structure of your course and what you think would work best for your students. And then again, the updating pages will give you some resources on how to make changes to content pages so that you can correct any of these types of mistakes. Checkpoint 3 is the technical information. So kind of the way that your course is behaving in D2L. So for this checkpoint, we're going to focus on the technical aspects of your course. So I've got another question for you. Has your course in D2L ever misbehaved on you? If so, what happened? I know that Laura is going to talk about when a course was copied, multiple grade items were duplicated in the gradebook. And we see that come through in the tickets quite often. Losing a module when updating a template. Oh my God, that must have been earth-shattering. Gradebook issues. Multiple modules copied. Yes, when you have that duplicated information, that's always stressful. Jean Marie, gremlins messed with the links, worked one day and not the next. Oh, it's scary stuff. Multiple machines with multiple browsers give different view and some issues. Yes, Chris, it's so hard when students are using Chromebooks or an iPad and then a desktop. We do see all of these different experiences and issues. Monica's talking about PowerPoints and how they're appearing in D2L. Quizzes. HTML can be tricky at times. Word docs don't always upload correctly in the new format. We'll have to look into that a little bit more. Equations not showing up. So this really goes into why it's so important to go through and look at every single thing in your course to make sure that everything is functioning properly. And if you come across something like those quiz issues, you can always reach out to D2L or CCIT and we can help you to try to get to the bottom of that problem. D2L view of papers moves the page numbers on the top of the page. That's odd. Michelle, is that in the Word document?
Yeah, so when we post, sample papers, the D2L view, the page numbers are always on the right, even for when the students upload them. So if when students upload their papers as assignments, if I don't download it to check the formatting, then like the page numbers are consistently on the left side instead of the right side, even if they did it right when they submitted it. And it's done that like forever.
That's interesting. It's like D2L is like, I need to have it right here. Doesn't matter where you set it. So as you look at your course, be certain that the text and embedded content is loading properly. Sometimes templates can break or embedded content can be moved or deleted over time, especially if you're pulling something from the web. It's particularly useful to make sure that all of your date restrictions, visibility settings, and links have been properly set up. Laura's going to tell you a little bit more about using student view so that you can do these checks more efficiently.
So there's a handy dandy little function in D2L where you can turn on the student view from the top of your screen. And I think, April, if you hit click, we might have an image come in.
There we go.
And then you can see at the top where you have your name, you can click on your name and choose to view this as a student. This is a wonderful aspect to help you get an idea of if your content and assignments are showing up as expected. It's not 100% perfect because D2L does still know that you are the instructor with instructor powers, but it can help you with a lot of things with troubleshooting a lot of the content or assignments that you have for students. So you want to be able to use that student view to look over all of the content and to check for errors. And you'll hear us mention student view again when we talk about video overviews for the course. So make sure you listen for that.
So, a big thing is about the links, and Student View does help you to check the links, I think, more quickly than when you're in your regular view. So many courses are built around schedules or calendars with these quick links, and this allows you to link to existing activities in the course content pages. You can also make these quick links to external resources like your YouTube videos or other websites, but you do want to make sure and check all of these links in your course schedule and throughout your course, because if you deleted an assignment or you're no longer using a specific web page or that web page went away, your students will get this error message. And we know that is not fun when you get 17 emails from students because they can't access a page. So checking those right at the beginning of the semester will hopefully alleviate some of those issues. Be sure to check all the links in your course to determine that they load properly. To enhance the security of D2L, many external websites will not open in the D2L frame. So it's really important that you have your links open in a new window. So when you go and you add a link, there are 3 different options that are there. You can do whole window, which means it's like in D2L, the full page. Same frame, which means D2L sits on top and it opens up in a little page, or new window. We suggest using new window, especially if it's for an external item, because we know for sure it'll open up if you do it that way. Check your videos. So providing direct links to embedded videos will ensure that students can access them in a way that works for them. So recently, Laura showed me that students can not only use closed captioning tools in YouTube, but they can also enlarge the size of the captioning to meet their needs. So if you add a direct link to that video underneath, then the students can go right to YouTube and make sure that they can use all of the tools that are there. In our next checkpoint, Laura's going to talk to you about UDL and having multiple ways to access materials like videos. This would be an example of UDL, or Universal Design for Learning in Action. So depending on where the links are in your course, it can be a little bit tricky to make these kinds of updates. So in the Course Maintenance Hub, we have a page just devoted to links and making updates to links that are in accordions, in announcements, content pages. Again, that syllabus link video is linked again, and then a Zoom link in a widget. So we try to really think about all those places where instructors are kind of held up with updating those links. It looks like Allison said if you embed a video in an announcement, the student gets the announcement via email, the embedded video doesn't show up. So yes, a direct link is really important in that case, because I don't even think they see it. So they don't even know that it's there. All right, checkpoint 4.
Thank you, April. Wow, we've covered so much already. Let's dive a little deeper and talk more about accessibility and universal design updates that we can make in our courses. First thing you want to do, and we were just talking about videos in your course, you want to check to make sure that they have closed captions. If you use Zoom or Screencast-O-Matic, for instance, you may need to turn on those captions. Zoom has the opportunity now, I think we've set the administration to the administrative setting that it can be turned on by your students right away, but we can double check that. YouTube, if you upload a video to YouTube, it will automatically caption it. The issue is, for the purpose of readability, it does often need to be edited. For instance, you can see in this example from the Copy Talk that the captions were not edited in one part. For instance, they aren't terrible, but they don't make sense. On the second video, you can see that Jen's name is capitalized, there's punctuation, and all of the words match the audio. If you use Vimeo, you're producing high quality videos to be used in multiple courses across the college. You can submit a ticket and they will be returned to you with captions. But be sure that you double check those captions to ensure that they represent the content in your course, in your video accurately. The other reason to double check those captions, especially if they're automatically generated, is if you have content specific words in, say, science content, for instance, it may not spell them correctly or understand exactly what you're saying. I know that, for instance, when I create videos with Carrie Ann, I get several variations of her name in the transcript, and I need to fix them so that we understand that it is actually the same person. So it's Carrie Ann in 2 words, it's carry on. It all depends on how well we enunciate it. So those are some things to look for. So now let's do a chat time. Who else benefits when we provide accessible media and content, for instance, like closed captioning? Who else can that help? I see adjuncts in the list. Rob, do you want to tell me what you mean?
Well, the more you sort of transparent, axiomatic the content, the easier it is for someone who's new to the institution or new to our program. We have English as a second language, so for someone who knows English but hasn't really taught it to those who don't, it's really helpful to have those kind of that meta language and information.
That's a great point, and helps us also, again, recognize that greater audience. I see a lot of people who have mentioned ESL students, language learners, people who want to review the material in multiple ways. I know that I turn the captions on, the closed captions on, when I'm watching Netflix and I'm watching some British mystery show, for instance. And I like the idea because then it shows me what they said. And sometimes I look up those phrases that they use and say, what does this mean in England? So that I can understand it. And I love this idea too, people who can't turn on their audio because they're in a public space. And I think about this too for parents with sleeping children, that they're trying to be able to complete their education, but their children are asleep and they need to be able to listen to it. I also sometimes, if my dogs are barking, at least I can still know what's happening on the television. I don't have to be upset about the noise in my environment. Those are a few of the ways. Oh, and I see, and hearing impaired, Walter said exactly. And that's definitely another reason that we have this. Terrific. The videos tile within the hub, and that's in the bottom in the middle, will give you quite a few resources to help you with the videos in your course. The 4th link down, when you've clicked on that video tile, is add captioning and editing the captioning. And this will help you to adjust the automatically generated captions in YouTube to give you resources to know how to do that. Another update you can make is you can incorporate some universal design for learning principles and add alternate forms of content and options for submitting assignments. When April was discussing equity earlier, I saw a lot of these types of responses in the chat that people were referencing providing choice for students. So you might let your students read an article or listen to that article being read, or watch a video that has the same content. We want things that are comparable here, of course. But students, they're not expected to do all 3. They can choose the one that works best for them. But you might be surprised how many students use a couple of them in tandem, because that really helps them round out the way they learn. And students can be given a choice to submit their work in multiple formats, for instance, in written or recorded formats. And I saw that in the chat as well. When you allow students to respond in different formats, though, make sure that you give rubrics that will help guide them to successfully complete the assignments, because we want them to still recognize what parts you need in order to have them demonstrate their learning completely for the assignment. And we return to the hub. There's an updating pages tile in the bottom left-hand corner of the page, and it will give you a link to a reference guide on how to use HTML templates. For instance, one template is specifically designed for formatting assignments. So real quickly, I just want to be able to show you that reference guide. This is what the tile looks like when you get to the reference guide page. And then this is what the document, what one of the pages inside that reference guide look like. You can see that there is a template for assignments. And in that assignment template, you can choose if you have 2 choices, if you have 3 choices, or if you had 1 for that particular assignment. But when you have multiple ones, it has a template that's set up already to offer those easily to your students. Here's a picture that helps you see what those templates look like just a little more clearly. Assignment template 2, as you can see, there are 2 choices there. And for assignment template 3, there are 3 choices. And you can decide again what those submission options are. We need to ensure that our courses are designed so that all students can participate and fully access our course materials. When we think of accessibility and the needs of our students, we often focus on 3 groups. We think about students with vision impairment, we think about students with hearing impairment, or with mobility impairment. Our text, lectures, images, and videos need to be in a format that works seamlessly with assistive technology. One of the nice parts, for instance, that image was a student who was celebrating, yay, my instructor made this readable with my screen reader. I did want to point out to you, if you're using Microsoft products, there are accessibility checkers inside of Microsoft. There's a review section in the tabs, and when you click on review, you'll see check accessibility, and it will give you a list of items that may need to be edited in order to increase the accessibility of your product. You'll see that across Word, PowerPoint, and Sheets. For the next page also, there's an accessibility checker within D2L for pages and documents within there. You'll see it's a tool that can ensure your course can be viewed and read aloud by your students. It's available on all of the HTML pages. So any pages that you create in D2L, those assignments, those announcements, can be checked for the most common accessibility errors. It checks your formatting, colors, and more. And for example, if your text and background don't have a high enough contrast, your text, your writing is in too light of a color, then you'll get an error. You'll need to go back and update that color. Dark colors on a light background are usually recommended. If you use colors to denote your due dates though, for instance, red to make something stand out, that's not always viewable by students who have color blindness. So you'll want to make sure that you indicate it some other way, for instance, making it bold and underlined, italics, something like that to help make it stand out, because the color alone won't do that. Some errors can be fixed right inside of the checker as well. And if you see a warning, for instance, for headers, for example, you can choose to correct the heading and repair it immediately. Excellent. And thank you, April, for responding. Lou had asked if there's a place to be able to check for Mac compatibility as well for students who are using Macs. And the answer is yes, especially Macs are a little bit friendlier with some of those Microsoft things. It's not necessarily the cross friendliness coming from a Mac, but they have that availability there as well. All right, so what do you think here's a chat time. Get ready, get your fingers ready to type on the keyboard. What do you think are some of the main issues with accessibility in your D2L course shell? So what are some of the things that might need fixing or that you've been diligent and you have fixed coming forward to ensure accessibility? I see a comment about the calendar. We want to make sure that that's accessibility. Because of those headings on the table. Bullet points, yes. Oh, making sure that there are closed captions on videos. Virginia said she's had some experiences where the closed captions seem to be there one semester and then the next semester they were not. So double checking to make sure that they've stayed. Old PowerPoints, yes. And I did see something in the chat earlier that sometimes the PowerPoints, they don't seem to work again later and the format might need to be changed. And I made a note of that so we can check into that. Alt text for pictures. So alt text, the alternative text, is when a student uses a mouse over on an image and a description of that image shows up. And again, we can have deeper discussions about alt text and how you write that. So let me know and I have resources for you as well. Announcements with red font. Exactly, Vivian. We were just talking about that. I'm glad that you mentioned that there too. Terrific. The closed captioning is really coming up. And I wanted to point out too, PDFs are not always accessible. There have been updates in D2L so that some of them can be read. You might want to check it with the read aloud button that's at the very bottom of that HTML page. But if your PDF had been uploaded as an image, as a picture, not as text, it can't parse out the text, then it will not be readable by your students. So we can talk to you about what alternative formats you could offer in those situations, because maybe you have some old PDFs and you need to figure out how to update them. But double check for that, because it may not be accessible for your students. And here's the hub. We have an accessibility tile in the hub in that top left corner, and you can learn more about D2L's accessibility there and have even more resources to understand that accessibility checker use. And now you're all fired up about accessibility. There's even a couple of courses that are offered from CCIT. There's IDT G19 about creating accessible content. And I know a couple of people here in this session right now are signed up for that course. You will learn more about designing accessible courses, get some support there. If you aren't able to enroll in a course, then you can sign up for the micro-credential course, and that's self-paced. You complete that on your own, and it's a smaller, more compacted version of learning about that digital accessibility if you would like to be able to access it that way. And again, we have our course hub here. In the bottom right-hand corner, there's I'm looking for something else tile. And this will give you links to additional resources if you want to learn more about those micro-credential courses, what other things are offered, and those IDT courses are found right in that tile. Whew, now we're on checkpoint 5. And we will note that there are a few more things that need updating. And then it's time to add some personalization to our course. So here's your opportunity. Here's some chat time. What are some ways that you personalize your course? What do you do to put some personality into it, to really let the students see who you are? We've got some jokes in the announcements, trying to put some humor in there. Videos, adding videos, emojis, and GIFs. Beautiful. And the videos, it's interesting because students, they don't really mind if you're making the videos and you might say an or an occasionally. Don't worry about having to edit that out, because that makes you real. That's a very good thing. We've got some Bitmojis, adding some Bitmojis. I had someone mention that they liked the Bitmojis in the schedule. Those are a couple places I put a couple of them in there just to re-energize everyone. A welcome video, and giving positive affirmations, recognizing students in their efforts and in their accomplishments. I love this introductory video that Carrie mentions about giving students an idea of who they are. The other nice part about providing that introductory video is, for instance, my name is not too difficult. I'm Laura Thompson, but if you have a name that maybe people struggle with the pronunciation, if you provide a video for your students and they hear how you pronounce your name, that relieves a lot of anxiety for them if they're worried about how to address you or how to interact with you. Yes, Melzy asked, is there a resource for adding Bitmojis? Yes, we've had some coffee talks about Bitmojis, and we'll be able to offer you some support there too. So don't worry about that. Gina's stealing all of these ideas. She loves them. And Carrie Ann is personally going to investigate that Bitmoji resource. So when we go into our homepage, one of the ways to start is by creating that new announcement that your students will see as soon as they sign in for the first time in your course. We want to create a welcoming environment for your students with that custom homepage. You can add a personal touch with the banner that shows at the top. You can have a welcome announcement and some custom widgets even. We've created a few that you can easily copy and paste, such as an instructor info widget, a Zoom link, or getting started widgets. The widgets are this little square here that says hello and has a hand. That's a widget. It's just a thing on the page. You can also include your own widgets and create your own as well. And we do have resources for widget creation. Maybe Carrie Ann will pop that in there too. For your announcement, I love that it came up in the chat. If you haven't considered an orientation video, you just heard a bunch of reasons why that is a great idea. Not only to let students know about who you are, but if you put it into student view, did you remember that we were going to talk about student view again? If you put your screen, your D2L screen into student view and you give a course orientation video where you walk them through some of the navigation, then it will show the students what it will look like for them. And that's a nice way to help connect with them and support your students. This gives you just a little bit more description of widgets on your homepage and shows you a few of the possibilities. That's what that Zoom widget could look like. That's what your, there's a handshake widget that's out there to help students get jobs. And we also, if you look at the other example, you can have a course schedule widget, instructor information widget. These are basically their direct links to be able to get to that information. That's the purpose for the widgets. All right. One of the things that I love that's near and dear to my heart is the instructor presence in the course, especially if you're teaching online. But again, to support that hybrid or that in-person when you're providing those welcoming announcements before your class even begins. One of the ways that you can use that is with Bitmojis. Here's a couple of other examples of what you can find. But you want to be available, responsive, and personable when you are increasing your instructor presence. Available, you are available to your students. That doesn't mean 24/7, but that means that you communicate in your communication guidelines when you'll respond to students, so that they know that if it takes you 24 hours, it's okay, because we live in a society where we hear from people in 2 seconds, and if we don't, then they're ghosting us, right? So we just want to let them know, if you ask me a question within 24 or 48 hours, whatever is in your communication plan, that you can still be responsive that way, but that personable side of it as well is giving them just a little bit of you. Doesn't mean you have to tell them your whole life story. We're certainly not advocating that, but it's just letting them know a little bit about who you are. Also in your course, you want to make sure that you have clear goals set for your students. And the easiest way that you can do that is you can set up a clear module overview. So before they get into the module, you can use templates that are available to help you ensure that you have the pieces that you need there, but you can add a summary. You can tell them what their learning objectives will be, what the activities will be, and where you want the students to start. And sometimes for many of your students, this really helps them to plan or to understand that roadmap that they're going to approach in your course. And remember, we talked about those video instructions? When you provide those video instructions, you provide a map for your students to accomplish their task, and you provide a choice for students to enhance their learning. So for instance, we just talked about being very clear in your description of what was going on in a course, in a module overview. When you have assignments, you can definitely type in the directions, because many students want to be able to read them and refer back to them. But when you provide a video that also walks them through what you're expecting, you might find that they respond positively to your inflection or to your emphasis of the directions. And you probably provide some more explanatory words in your video as well. So that's something to consider to help support your students for success. And just circling back to those course orientation videos, you can see a little bit of examples here for assignment walkthroughs, or for the whole overall course orientation, or even the module overviews to help your students. And we'll return to that course maintenance hub where we have a videos tile in that bottom center that again helps you when you're creating those overview videos. Whew, take a deep breath. Here we go with checkpoint 6. All right, this is the last checkpoint, and we want to make sure that our grades are set up accurately. So here's that chat time. What's the worst gradebook blunder that you or a friend, so you have the way out there, has experienced? Multiple columns of the same item, doubles of the assignments. Maybe the grades weren't calculated the way that you expected. Oh yes, and Celeste is talking about if it's weighted versus just actual points. Assignments that don't make it to the gradebook, not realizing columns or categories were toggled to be visible for students. Excellent. Okay. So the first thing you want to do when you look at your course, I know we're all excited to get into that course schedule and update that, but you want to check that your gradebook is correct. And a common issue might be that the items add up to more than 100%. And we want to be able to fix any of those things before our students are active in the class.
Like you mentioned, a lot of those things are those duplicated assignments and just checking over that grade book to make sure everything adds up properly. So we want to say thank you so very much for coming. Thank you for participating. We really enjoyed this session and having you all here. It was really nice to get a chance to chat with you and kind of talk about some of those things that we all go through as we're starting the new semester. So please feel free to stay on if you have any questions, but we wish you the best of luck this semester.